interviews live from the grotto without Greg Hanna. Greg's not here today, but he'll have that final question I'll ask for him. And my guest today is celebrity Nathan Gamble, and he's going to talk about the new comedy Bad Counselors. But Nathan has an unbelievable kind of story in his career in acting. Nathan, thanks for stopping by. How are you?
Hey, thanks for having me here.
I mean, I see the titles you were in. But as we know, you were a child actor. So that
Yes.
process and that journey, but it must have been unbelievable, that story. So talk about that. And then I want to find how that faith journey, if it was always there, even when you're in Hollywood, such an early age.
Yeah, to make a super long story short, I like to see like my career was kind of like the reverse classic actor's journey, right? Because usually you toil, you take the classes, you're, waiting tables for a little bit, you audition, and then eventually you get the big break. For me, I'm not in any way saying this as like a braggadocious way, but this is just how it is. Like my second audition, I booked, and it was for a movie called Babel, where I played Brad Pitt's son. And that movie was nominated for Best Picture. That was my second audition. And
How
then
old were you?
I was 7 years old. I had a bodyguard in Tijuana, Mexico. We were like true fish out of water. Like we were like, what is going on?
That's got to be crazy. What'd you think of
Yes.
Brad, working with Brad?
It's funny. With Babel, it takes place four different stories, kind of interwoven together in Japan, Morocco, and a couple Morocco, and then one in Mexico. I was the Mexico storyline, so he was my dad in it. But we only had like phone calls that were like pre-recorded for the scenes. But I did meet him at the Toronto Film Festival. He like went out of his way to like shake my hand, and it was a very nice guy. My mom was really excited about it for some reason. I don't know.
7 years old,
Yeah,
co-starring with being a part of it with Brad Pitt. I
yeah.
can't even imagine. See, that's the hard thing as a child actor. When you lead, you go ahead and have this huge win at 7 when you have no understanding of booking something like this,
Yes,
and then saying, I got to continue this. That's the pressure. You don't know it.
exactly.
Your parents are pressured, maybe, in that process, but they never thought of this. So, I mean, I'll tell you the example is interviewing celebrities, Nathan. I'm one of the top celebrity podcasts in the world, according to FeedSpot and a million podcasts. And I constantly try to step on my game with celebrities. And now my agency's got so busy, I've forgotten what led me to kind of that brand, even though I was a former professional wrestler too. I don't know if you know that story too, Nathan.
Wow, no
That, yeah.
way.
Okay. So basically, going through those two things, I'm like, man, I just interviewed this celebrity. And there's this down, this like, oh my gosh, I hit this, and that euphoric moment's over. How am I going to top that? It's 7. You don't think about those things, do you?
No, not really. And especially too, when you're working pretty consistently, like I was, like right after that, I booked a movie called The Mist, which was directed by Frank Darabont, who did Shawshank and The Green Mile. It was a Stephen King movie, and I was one of the main characters in it. And then we did Marley and Me, and then The Dark Knight, and then Dolphin Tale 1 and 2. And like I said, it was kind of the reverse story. And then all of a sudden, you hear all these things like, man, your career's just gonna go boom. It's just gonna continue to rise, and this industry is very fickle. Then after that, it was kind of a lull. I had done some TV stuff and a couple, indie films here and there, but at 19, I was living by myself in LA. I was miserable. I didn't have a faith. My parents did. I was I was so isolated that I was willing to end it all. And through
Oh no.
a
So,
series of phone calls, this guy who was the dean of a Bible college called me up and said, "Hey, I don't know. I know you don't know me, and I don't know you, but I think you should come and attend our college." And I was like, "Who is this guy?" No, thanks though. However, after time progressed and I started to hang out with some of these Bible college students because he's like, all right, just come out and visit us. Because it was in Ventura, California. So I drove out there, and these guys they just had a countenance about them that I'd never seen before. They were joyous, they had peace, they had love. And I had never experienced that. I was really fascinated because my whole ego, my whole reputation was in me being an actor, right?
right.
And yet I was so unhappy. And yet all these broke college students have nothing, in my opinion, going for them. And yet they have
Yeah,
so much
so
peace.
I felt that in a way too because I was young in professional wrestling. I walked away at 29, went back to school to get my undergrad and then and graduate degrees. So I basically did almost similar to you in a way where
Wow.
I'm used to being on stage, even though it was minor leagues. I made it to the pinnacle a couple times,
That's awesome.
overseas, but I felt not fulfilled at all either. So
Hmm.
I felt that emptiness inside as well.
Yes.
I felt that no one around me was my friend, and that's the problem in acting in certain ways. And we could talk about how you've transitioned to more Christian-based films and how that's
Yeah.
changed a lot of those relationships that you started. And really, as a child actor, you just don't know what you're going to do. So, like, basically, you booked all these things and you thought you were going to be the next big thing. And what happened? Why? I want to get to the faith, but I'm missing this part of the piece of the story that got you this rock bottom moment in 17. Like, and I'm telling you, this is the biggest thing. When people achieve high success, I was talking to a guy yesterday who was one of the top college players that I'm considered to play, and then alcoholism killed him off. And then he played in the Arena Football League, same deal. Then now he's in acting. Then he finally gave up alcohol and his faith, and he totally transformed himself. But we talk about these high achiever. When you're a high achiever in something, ultimately there's going to be a letdown at one point in time, and you can't be on top forever. And a lot of people deal with that. So what were you dealing with?
The parameters and that's a great way to put it is when I was on set for most of my childhood career, I didn't just want to be a good actor. I wanted to be the best actor on set. I wanted to be the most professional. I wanted to be the most, I wanted to know every single name on the crew and the cast. Like I made it my everything.
Right.
I ate, breathed, and slept on all things acting. Like it was my thing. So, but my identity was in it. And what I mean by that is I was Nathan the actor. So
Yeah.
if I had a season of not acting, I was now Nathan the failed actor because everything was poured into my career.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when the isolation started, the spiraling started, the start to second guess my even abilities and I start to realize like, wow, what if I never act again?
Why do you think you didn't book stuff? Tell us this why after your child actors are very difficult to get them into the next level.
You know, it's funny because I at that time I was booking quite a lot actually. I was just doing like TV show like guest stars or like I said a couple indie films, but I wasn't doing the things like the ones in theaters. I wasn't doing the
If you
parameters for
ever had a crystal
success.
ball and knew that not many would be in theaters later, you would
I
have had to
know
try you try and
exactly.
change your mind.
Like Bad Counselors, which will be in theaters in
Yeah.
24 hours, is my first theatrical in 12 years. And that's
Oh my
bonkers.
goodness.
But at that
And then
time,
yeah.
yeah,
And I'm trying to paint this story and I'm like, this is where you're coming out of the woodwork. When I see your what you've booked,
yeah.
child actor, you did those things. You hit rock bottom. You found your faith going back to college, right?
Yeah, I didn't really have one, but I knew I needed something. I knew I needed some centering of my goals in life because if I never acted again, that would have been devastating to me at that time. Now, I go to this Bible college. My manager has a field day. She's like, "What are you talking about? You can't leave this industry for a little bit." And I said, "Bev, I have to go. I have to go. I have to figure out what these guys have. The juju that's on them. I want to know what's going on." So I get saved two weeks into the program, and I get pretty zealous where I'm like, I don't want to go to Hollywood. It's Sodom and Gomorrah, blah blah blah
Oh
blah
my
blah.
goodness. Yeah, yeah,
The
yeah.
classic pendulum swings one way, and then as I mature my faith, it swings back the other way, and I go, man, those people they need this kind of joy that I have, this kind of peace, this kind of centering where my identity's not in myself, it's in Him, it's in Christ. So I don't need to work to feel fulfilled. All the
Right.
fulfillment has already been done, and the no pressure is really on me. I could be waiting tables, or I did a litany of jobs when I was in Bible college.
Right.
I wrote for a local newspaper. I helped out a escape room. I did contract construction. I did drywall installation. I did landscaping. I did
Wow.
waitering for bar mitzvahs. I taught at the local school district for at 7 different schools. I did a whole bunch of stuff not named acting, and I was okay with it. I was fulfilled. I loved doing it because my calling's not my career. My calling is just to tell the world about him.
Interesting. Okay. So you do all that. So how long are you out of acting for after
Seven
graduating?
years.
Okay, so 7 years you were doing other things, but I look at my career in professional wrestling, how I used a lot of that, what I learned, and any of my jobs I've had to where I
Hmm.
am today.
Yeah, of
I take a
course.
lot of all that with me, all the experiences, regardless, like delivering newspapers at night, it doesn't matter,
Yeah.
working for another company and
Yep.
taking all that to who I am as a person today.
Yes,
And
yes,
I
yes.
think that that's what you did is you formed, you saw I could do a lot of other things than act. And I think that you saw that you can enjoy what you're doing because you knew you were called to be on this earth. And
Yes.
that's the big thing when we have a calling, a passion, a purpose, there's no way of stopping us.
Yeah.
There's no way. And we're going to have some times that aren't going to be the best, but we're always going to be resilient to come back through. So, what
Agreed.
made you want to go back into acting? 7 years? Because again, there was a lot of probably pain you dealt with, probably a lot of being a child actor dealing with really who am I? What is my
Yes.
identity? What am I called? So 7 years later, you say, "Oh, I'm coming back to acting."
I think the 7 years were important because I use this example a lot because it's so true. It's getting out of Egypt, if you're an Israelite, wasn't the goal. It was getting the Egypt out of your heart. It was getting how they acted, how they did life like that. You should be set apart. You should do life differently. And for me, I had so much of my heart still wrapped up in the industry to the point where I'm like, my ego and my identity was in it. So those 7 years was really kind of weaning out all of that stuff where it made me feel okay, if I never act again, I will be okay. And then
Yep.
7 years go by and I finally book another part. And it wasn't even, I wasn't seeking faith based stuff. And I'm still not just seeking faith based stuff.
I'm sure you're not because you
Obviously,
know you can make a difference and save people in so many ways that are not on
of
set. You can
course.
go into Hollywood, break into Hollywood, and show that. Look at people that are out there that yeah, mostly shoot Christian stuff because they have the opportunity, but they
Yeah.
also are out there in Hollywood being a disruptor.
Exactly. You got it exactly right. Like when we believe that the Great Commission is not just for fellow believers, when it's for everyone else, and you want to just love on them, like those are the sets that you really want to be on. And it just so happens that the last couple projects that I've gotten, one being Miracle on the Precipice, which is a Christian film, and then the next year I booked Bad Counselors, which is also a Christian film, coming out tomorrow, July 22nd through July 27th. Buy your tickets now. Uh, Forget about those two other movies that are massive right now. Just go see Bad Counselors. But
See, when
anyways,
I'm saying movies, I'm not been going to the theater at all, but that will
yeah,
definitely talk about that. So let's talk about Bad Counselors. I mean, I
sure,
like to get the story because now I understand you. Now
yeah,
I understand reasons and depending
yeah.
on specific things. But now you probably being going back on set, you really were helpful to some people that never probably shot a big deal. I wonder, being on that set as a child actor and working so many major projects, did that help kind of be a leader in certain ways, even at a younger age on set?
You know, that's a really good question. I don't try to seek that at all. Like I
I'm
do
sure you
believe,
don't, but I'm sure you want to help.
but I do, yeah. So I think the best way to go about that is to be incredibly professional and kind and available, and then like Braden, who played shoot, I'm blanking on his name, but he's a this really cute 12-year-old kid, super fun, really talented. And him and his mom ended up asking me a lot of questions about when I was a 12-year-old actor. And that wasn't something that I was like, hey, if you I'm here if you need anything. Like that was something that I developed a rapport with him, and then
Yeah.
eventually they ended up asking me a question. So I think that's usually my goal on set is I just want to be the white blood cell to everything, where I'm just helping out wherever I can. And if it happens to be fellow actors, or even if I'm
Yeah.
talking to like crew members, that was something my dad taught me as a young age, is he did not care if I could cry on cue. He did not care that I hit my mark or that I knew every line. He cared that I knew the craft service guy's name as well as the director's name. Like he
Oh,
would
wow.
he would be on me like white on rice when it comes to stuff. Like if he
Really?
heard that other actors were like talking bad about people, he said, "I don't want you hanging out with those people at all."
What is your dad's
And
background? Is he in acting?
no, he was a playwright for a little bit, but then he realized that they didn't quite pay the bill, so he was an HR manager at a lumber company in Washington. That's what he did for like
There's
25
no,
years.
no that's a challenge in itself to be in the
Yes.
corporate end and represent and deal with so many different personalities on the HR
Yes.
side. Trust me, I'm sure that helped when
Yes.
his son was an actor.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so let's talk about bad counselors. I already can tell you're very humble. I know you went through kind of being away from it, but you're
Yeah.
very humble in where you're at. And you're saying, hey, I'm not just doing Christian stuff. I'm going to be doing a lot of other things too.
Mm.
Because anytime you can put in your resume something like that, that opens doors, doesn't it?
It does.
You're
It really does. And yeah, I think a lot of people are scared of being boxed in or typecast. If it inevitably happens, if you're typecast, that does also mean that you'll be getting work because everyone's gonna be seeking that. Hey, who's that one cringe Christian guy who does all those Christian movies? Like I use Kevin Sorbo, who I've filmed the movie with. I
uh,
love Kevin Sorbo.
Kevin's amazing. I've interviewed him, and I've
Yeah,
interviewed Braden Sorbo too. Oh my gosh,
both guys
but
awesome.
he's
I
a, he's a just a I mean
class act.
he's a class act. He was on a show with my co-host Dr. Gilda Carl, who wrote "Real
Yes.
Men Don't Go Woke." You got to check out that book. That's a client of
Yes.
mine.
Yes. So, Kevin Sorbo, let's be honest, he's Mr. Christian movie guy.
Yeah,
And you know what? He's working all the time. And I think he's
he's not just
accepted
working in
that.
Christian stuff; he's working in other stuff too.
Exactly.
That's what you
100%.
can be doing the same thing. So
Yes.
that's somebody to really model yourself after, and his energy is
Yes.
unreal.
Yeah, he's a class act. He was always professional. Kevin Sorbo is the real deal.
Okay, all right. So talk about bad counselors now.
Yes, Bad Counselors is it might be because I just was at the quasi premiere last night here in Texas and with some of the actors and the director, Chris Dowling. It is probably one of my most proud products that I've done because a lot of Christians, when they say they want to do like faith-based stuff, they usually shoot for the moon and then they end up somewhere in Albuquerque. They really don't exactly make where they wanted to go because inevitably the cheese and cringe of Christian content just kind of eventually just seeps in somehow. There is none of that. It's genuinely funny. All of the actors are really good in it, and the sprinkle of Jesus is there. But as I've been saying, that's the goal is to entertain the butts in the theaters to entertain and to make them laugh. And I think this movie does that really, really well.
It sounds like it, and that's the thing. So, kind of telling me the story now. Tell me the premise of it really fast.
It's the greatest elevator pitch ever. Two frat guys who have no business being Christian camp counselors are forced to do community service, so they have to pose as Christians at this faith camp to get their community hours, or else they have to be expelled from their like Harvard type college.
Okay, okay. And who do you play?
I play the antagonist of the movie. I play the youth pastor who can sniff out that there's something funky about those guys, and I try to expose them for being frauds.
Interesting, but you think of yourself probably in those guys as well when you first stepped on a Christian campus.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, then I relate to them, but I also relate to my character as well because then after that, I went to every camp and I was a youth leader and I worked under a youth pastor, and so I acquired a lot of knowledge from both scenes, and I was able to kind of morph them together to form the character that I played in Bad Counselors.
I love it. I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, you're bringing it to the table exactly the excitement of what you do and all that. So people could check out who all stars in it, Nathan, for people to know.
Oh man, we got the Matt Cornett, who's just in the hit Amazon show Every Year After. We got Ramon Reed, who is awesome. He's been in the industry for a while, but his IMDb meter is gonna skyrocket after this because he's so funny in it. Breck Bassinger, who's I mean everyone knows her from the show she did on CW, Stargirl, I think it was what it's called, and then McKaylee Miller, also such a talent. She's been in a lot of Chris Dowling's projects, and I think she's in the movie called Mother, which is also really good. And then we have Chris Klein from American Pie. He's back. He's the youth. He's the pastor, the senior pastor at the church. Missy Pyle, who is hilarious in it as the cop. I'm sure I'm blanking on a name
That's okay. That's
somewhere.
okay. We're
Yeah.
going to stop you right there. All right. So my co-host asked all our celebrities this question.
Okay.
So Nathan, this is the deep one.
Okay.
What is the most important thing in life you ever learned?
The most important, I mean, I have just such an obvious answer, but I want to, I want to, I want to go deep here because I have two missions here on Earth. It's not to be a successful actor. It's not to make a certain amount of money or have a nice house or even, you know, have a huge family or have, a bunch of nonprofits. Those are great. The two most important things I'm supposed to do on earth is to love God and love his kids. And that means everyone. And if I'm doing that and I can have that on my tombstone that I successfully did that, then I lived out the way that the Lord wanted me to live out, where I loved on him and I loved on his kids. And I mean that in every sense of the way where I'm not just like sharing the gospel every sense I can, but loving on them, knowing their needs, meeting their needs, learning people's names, learning their kids' names, being actually genuinely interested in their lives and showing true compassion and humanity. That's a part of the Great Commission, and if I can live that out and also love on Him, then I'm doing it. That is the two most important things that I have learned that I value the most. And a little side note, I'm a little asterisk. You can scroll all the way down. Not even a side note too. This is like a close second. Is I want to be the best husband and the best father I could be. I'm married. We are about a 1 week away from being a year married, and marrying Hannah was the best decision I ever made. So I loving on her for the rest of my life too is probably the most important thing.
All right. I love it. That's great. Nathan, other projects coming up. Anything else to tell us about?
Yes, two big ones. One of them is a show called Bible College, which I co-created and I'm starring in. It's going to be a movie, then a show. So be looking out for that, as well as a movie I filmed a couple years ago called Miracle on the Precipice that is coming out in theaters next year. So look out for Bible College and Miracle on the Precipice.
And you have other projects you can't talk about. Well, appreciate it,
Exactly.
Nathan.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks again.
Have a
And
good
people
one.
could check out the movie easily by just going and
Go
searching
on
Bad Counselors.
Fandango, Cinemark, AMC, Regal. They're in most theaters right now, so please go and flood theaters with your friends. If they like a good comedy where they can laugh and cry, this is it.
All right. That was the special simulcast of the Neil Haley Show and the celebrity interviews live from the grotto. Take care, guys.